ops folks, I think, rightfully so, tend to lean on the rules, right? And so you probably spent a whole bunch of time inside your organization writing rules of engagement, setting up exactly how things should work. But there is, to your point, sometimes like some common sense or other factors that you have to balance with those rules. How do you think about actually maintaining that balance and figuring out what the right thing is for the business at that moment?
Yeah, I think having great managers to lean on is really helpful because they understand the more nuanced pieces of, like the lives of the reps. So things like, I can understand where they are in ramp and like what their performance has been historically, but I might not know that they have, upcoming vacation planned and like that in the super short term, like that could be impactful for something. I might not know if someone's having like a hard time at home or they're out a lot for doctor's appointments, or if they are struggling and they're going to be on a PIP. And so like we might not plan to have them in the business after a certain point. I might not know that like these two get along really well and like they're really productive together. And so even on paper, if it looks right to squish people around, like that will not be productive overall. So the managers having a really strong sense of their team and like all the parts of that is really helpful, because at the end of the day, like some of that will be more impactful than like having a rule and holding to the rule. But yeah, I think having our like rules of engagement is obviously very important and helpful as guidelines, and trying to stick to them as much as possible is helpful, because otherwise if everything is an exception, then the rules don't really exist.
Yeah.
But yeah, working with sales management to find that balance and making sure like at the end of the day, the gut check like makes sense. I think that finding that balance is important, and it's really only possible if you have good sales management in place that you're in a partnership with.
And that they, I think, support and defend the rules that do exist, right? Because if they're in the exact same boat where they're always looking for the exception to that rule, then you know that that's the conversation that they're having with their reps, right? And so having a true partner who's also there not only to help you have insight into those types of scenarios you described, but also defend the rules and know them in, let's call it 80% of the scenarios, and then 20%, that's where the two of you might work it out. Like that, to me, I think is also a really important part of that partnership.
Agreed. Yeah, like they have to be bought into the rules, and it depends on how big the org is and the dynamic of the org, whether or not like the VP developed them and then trickled them down, or if it was a different type of structure and like the next layer of management could work with you directly. But either way, like, yeah, getting their buy-in is important, because if it's all like was it disagree but commit, then that's not great overall. Like they have to believe that the rules are going to be beneficial overall. And they also they're managing say 4 to 8 to 10 reps. Like they have to also appreciate that the rules are in place to help create some order out of the chaos that it would be in the absence of them.